Northerly the leader. Old Comrade down the outside. Northerly shows the way from Old Comrade. Sister Patricia, Corporate Bruce and home run. But Northerly, Danny Miller coming away. And Northerly wins the railway from Old...
Here's Lucky Gray coming down the outside now. Godspoken's got up on the fence. Mr. Moet though hits the front. A boil over. Mr. Moet first up. He's won the railway from Lucky Gray. Not sure about third. Playing God. God has spoken. Rosie Rocket. What a win it's been by Mr. Moet. Won't the corks be a problem? I don't care. I love her eyes and her wild, wild hair. Terrific down the outside. Platinum Rocker and fire up Fifi stride for stride. Platinum Rocker fire up Fifi. Lucky Gray. Lucky Gray on the outside. Swamp them. Gather them up. It's another one for Lucky Gray. Lucky Gray's got home to win his second railway stakes from either Platinum Rocker. Scales of Justice and the Durban Demon has kicked him away. Scales of Justice led 3 lengths to Good Project. Perfect Reflection, but Dougie White's going to win it on Scales of Justice. It's a mighty West Platoon. He's coming down the outside and so's Regal Power. Regal Power levels up, grabs the lead. It's Regal Power. Regal Power on the outside. The Wizard has done it again in the railway. Here comes Inspirational Girl. She's starting to thread her way through the field. Inspirational Girl, Pike under hands and heels, ranges up, grabs the lead. It's a winning hat trick for the Wizard and goes. Pike's hardly flinched, 150 left to go, and the Hot Pot storms up, grab the lead. This is all over, it's all over bar the shouting. The Empire reigns supreme. Western Empire won it by...
And now on PG Podcast Network, it's time for the year-round Carnival with Vince Accardi and your host, Racetrack Ralphy.
We're in the Wild Wild West for the Northerly. What a superstar that horse was. It's the last Group 1 of the calendar year. We do, of course, the Gold Rush next year. So thanks so much for tuning in and getting our preview edition as we have a chat with Vince Accardi from Daily Sexuals. Good morning, mate.
Good morning, Ralphy. And here we are. The track come up slow 5 again.
Well, this will be interesting. One dynamic that is going to be different, though, is finally the rail's back to the true position.
Yeah. Isn't that weird, isn't it? You would have thought it was going to be there last week.
Yes.
But
yes.
that's okay. It's there this week.
It's been a bit harder to make ground now with the rail back to true. And at the moment, it's off 5. What say you?
I agree, Ralphie, that it is going to be a lot harder, given all the wear and tear that would have been 8 metres out. It will be very interesting what happens with the lanes. It will be very interesting to see what sort of watering's taken place, because I went and had another deep look at that whole scenario last week. It seemed to be the most affected areas between the 8 and the 4.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well, in terms of particularly when horses come around that bend to try and get into those wider lanes. So we could have a massive scenario, hard on pace, stalkers is where all the money's going to be.
So effectively, would it be fair to say, like when Caulfield plays firm?
Yep.
Back to the true?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with the Northerly Stakes, the Group 1, $1.5 million up for grabs. A few different storyline here. We've got 3-year-old Colt, King of Light, the favourite, 3-year-old Filly, Pure Excess. Got some good local form through the railway, of course, headed by Watch Me Rock, who beat Western Empire. Got a couple of little different form lines there as well, with the New South Wales form of Vivier and the Victorian form of Apulia. Firstly, the speed of the race. How are you expecting it to unfold?
Yeah, geez, Ralphie, that's a decent sort of a setup, isn't it, field-wise? Yeah. On the pace scenario, Ralphie, when I go through the various runners there and try and understand, okay, what's the realistic tempo? Geez, Ralphie, I'm struggling for it to be a super fast race. I do feel it's going to be above average, but only maybe 1 to 3 lengths faster than the standard. I don't feel we're going to get to the sort of 5, 6, 8 lengths faster than standard.
Yeah, well, that in itself is interesting because it usually says, and I'm looking at your initial early edition. Of course, the final edition comes out tomorrow. But leaders like Cosmic Crusader, Admiration Express, Watch Me Rock, none of those that sort of tear away front runners, are they?
No, and you know what that means, Ralphie? Already, if you got some sort of advantage up front
Yep.
and you can run even tempo slightly faster, it really does favour that whole lead pack and the stalkers massively.
So the starting point is the favourite, Willie Pike. I think he has to waste a bit to get to 52 kilos, and he had a bit of a choice to make. He had a bit of a choice to make in the railway where he went Watch Me Rock over a Western Empire, and they ran 1-2. This time he throw in the 3-year-old, and also what he said was the added agony of having to walk away from Team Williams for this decision as well. So he must have a lot of confidence in this horse. Obviously, he's unbeaten. If you just matched up the Guineas with the railway, you'd say he was crazy, but the lead-in run to the Guineas, that was the big one, wasn't it? It was a monster performance over 1,400 metres.
Yeah, number one didn't use a lot of energy early that day, Ralphie, 7.8 lengths below bench. I don't feel the horse could go much slower than that. The move, again, wasn't supersonic, so the horse was doing it all under its own steam. And then you look at the plus 6.7 last 400. It's as crazy as it sounds, like it's got two other split times last 400 that are far superior, and the horse literally didn't get out of the gears. So I get it why he wants to be with this horse, because there's not a chance in a million that this horse has been remotely tested yet. Of course, where it's going to sit in running will be vital. The typical scenario is that this horse likes to sit around 4 lengths, maybe 5 lengths off the lead speed. If that happens, and maybe with this extra 200 metres, Ralphie, it is quite possible they could be slightly more positive and maybe get within 3 lengths of the leaders through the first half of the race. That would be like a massive plus. And if that happens, Ralphie, and the horse genuinely can be within 3 or 4 from the leader, then there's a big chance the game's over. Because this horse is not tested. And look what it's doing.
Yeah, he's super exciting, and on top and you'd have to think that with that weight drop, the market's going to really come for it too. So at the moment, he's sort of low twos, but I doubt he's going to move much.
I doubt he's going to move much at all, Ralphie, and it'll be very interesting to see on the weekend whether this is a horse that's going to potentially even dominate in our part of the world after this race. We'll see.
So that's the type of upside that he's got as far as Eastern States ability. Okay, so then the two from the railway, and I guess we have to say that this year's railway was a tad on the soft side as far as, you know, a sort of what was Watch Me Rock, 2.3 lengths above benchmark, very good, but we regularly see railways +3, +4 range. He's a winner though, this horse. He genuinely puts his neck out, 11 from 19. And I reckon Willie Pike would have not wanted Nash Rawiller to be right here, because when Nash can put on a show, oh dear, he's still as good as anyone.
Well, they got the right guy to replace it.
Yeah,
100%, Ralphie. And this is a horse that massively, you don't have to worry about the distance. I reckon it gets big advantages going to the distance. This is also a horse that has a very strong last 400 metres as well. Maybe at this stage, not quite as crazy as it sounds, to the same level as King of Light, but certainly on the tactic side can be within a length, 2 lengths if it got down to a big crunch last 400. So I feel they're all big advantages. The downside is where it's drawn. Now, the horse can put itself in a forward motion. I'm sure Nash is going to look to do that. And the question will be, will the horse get caught wide or not?
Do you find a spot? Do you find a spot for him on the grid? It's, anything happens when the barrier's open, but on expectations.
Well, I'm looking at the scenario like right now where it's sit. It's in the worst possible jam on the elevator. Like I look at it, there's all the horses in the first half. This is say gates 10 inside. They all like to sit in that running line. And when you look at the other side, this is from 11 upwards, they also all like to sit in that running line. So the challenges are, of course, there'll be 2 or 3 horses that'll push more forward, but there's a massive scenario where that horse will get caught unless there's pace. If there's good pace, no, then you'll roll forward and you'll find your space. See, that's the power of the speed. If they just run even, Ralphie, everyone gets caught. Well, when I say everyone, a lot of horses get caught, not every horse.
Well, I reckon I've got no data to back this up, but this is just gut feel. The best 2 barrier jockeys for mine in the country are Nash and Blake Shin. And the one thing is, if he can explode out, that's probably what he needs to do, isn't it? Just to somehow get across a few.
Well, it's not going to surprise me if that happens.
Yep.
If he gets out and gets rolling, I just got to hope that there's enough speed where the horse can be in the right spot. And then, of course, the last part is, do you feel the horse can take the next step and go to another level? And it could, potentially. Well, I don't know if it really has to go, because if you just take away King of Light and maybe to a slightly lesser extent Western Empire, how much more do you really have to improve? Maybe not that much.
So Western Empire, all-time best of Western Empire. I'm sure you'd probably swap markets, but the question is, how close could he get to his all-time best? And so your expectation level tomorrow, off a very good run in the railway, it must be said.
It was a perfect run, Ralphie. It was like ideal for this sort of race. This horse can perform super at this distance. It's very, very capable. It will be in that tactical forward position, Ralphie. I just can't help but feel barrier 6 golden position. Lots of options. If Billy Egan jumps cleanly with the horse, that horse is going to be inside that 3-length zone, which is fantastic. That means he'll get his chance. He's got the big 400-metre sprint. He can do it, Ralphie. Is he as good as what he was several seasons ago? I feel the horse is still trending, like for the campaign, but maybe trending only to around that +2, 7, maybe 3 range, not trending at this stage to the +4 to 7 range. Like if it was going to that range, I would be saying right now it's party time, but I'm not sure we're that good anymore.
Ethan Brown stepped up as a Group 1 jockey over the last 18 months or so, and he's going to have to step up tomorrow, because I would say probably more so than with Watch Me Rock. I mean, Keenan, your thoughts here with Vivier. Barrier 12 is not ideal for her because she probably has less tactical speed than Watch Me Rock, but her win in the 5 Diamonds was very, very solid.
Yeah, well, of course, that's going to be a big challenge for the horse, where it's going to sit him running. Realistically, Ralphie, when you look at this horse here, they could easily pull the trigger and just go midfield back and go for the 1 run. And I don't believe you're going to be going wide, Ralphie. You have to be looking for the inside run. So it's a genuine handicap head start. Could you really give a bunch of horses 3, 4, 5 lengths head start and believe you can beat them all? This is another horse has a fantastic last 400, quite capable. Less capable if you've got good speed in the race and you're a lot further back, you're going to need to get through traffic issues.
And just to round off the ones that you've mentioned in your most advantage, Osipenko was planted wide throughout. I dare say from the widest barrier, and Chris Waller's, he's always a big barrier man, but in this case, I think he's just going to have to say, well, it's the last Group 1 of the year. Fred, off you go and probably try and cross the field.
Do you think that's what they might do, Ralphie?
Well, what chance has he got if he goes back and gets planted wide? I mean, here's a horse who has taken positions in the past.
Yeah, he has taken positions. You're right, Ralphie. And that's their only chance if they do that. Now, it's interesting because this is where things can change in terms of pace up front. If there's 2 or 3 horses that are wide and want to chance their arm, and Osipenko being one of them, and say, no, I'm going to just force myself in a forward motion, you're going to increase the pace. There's no doubt about it. Now, this horse you're right, Ralph, this horse can absolutely do that. If we look at that Randwick run, December 24, over 2,000 metres, that was a clear indicator when it went 8.5 above benchmark through the first half of the race. and that race pace was like really hot. So this is a horse that could change the pace and change the whole structure of the race, and that could change the outcome of a lot of scenarios as well. Personally, I hope they go forward.
Yeah. So the one that you haven't got at the moment in your early edition, now of course you'll have another deep dive tomorrow with the write-ups of the final edition, is Cosmic Crusader. He's trending the right way, minus 0.9, plus 1.1, plus 1.3. When he got beaten 3 starts back, he was $1.40 versus Watch Me Rock $7.50. So that's the expectation he had off that booming Belmont win. He obviously has some upside at the moment. Where do you think he fits?
Well, he's definitely going to be advantaged to being in that lead pack for sure. And they'd be looking for control up front, controlling speed, not a speed that's going to be like out of control. And Ozpenko is the fly in the ointment, Ralphie, for sure, right? They could change all that. But let's assume he can take some sort of control. I feel that he becomes the sitting duck unless he can really slow down the field. Now, what's the chances of that happening? What are the chances of the rider being able to make him go that slow that they're travelling, say, 3, 4, 5, maybe 8 lengths below benchmark? If he could pull off that miracle, then his lead position would be almost guaranteeing him a top 3 finish. But if the speed's even, which is what I'm forecasting, slightly faster, then he's going to be under attack by a whole bunch of horses. And I just don't feel he's going to be able to hold them out.
So we're not doing a top-up podcast tomorrow. So at the moment, your mindset, it sounds like, well, we know we're going to get $1.30 given a 16-horse field with King of Light the place. Is it the type of bet that you'll be jumping into?
Right now, Ralphie, to be candid with you, like I'm on the fence with the meeting because I want to see what happens with the track. I'm just lost a little bit of faith. I spoke to a couple of people during the week in Western Australia. And mind you, Ralphie, some people were of the same view of even what you and I were thinking about in our initial podcast about some of the results and how do these times, like also, just the times they were running, just for those sort of horses, and they're all at a loss to try and work out why. Now, they don't necessarily have the tools that we have in terms of being able to get inside. And that sparked, I definitely sparked some light about, what are we going to be dealing with this weekend? What are we going to be dealing with? So that's my personal concern at the moment. And it's one of these things, when I have that, doesn't mean I don't want to bet, just means I need to see how the races 1 and 2 open up. I'll be fortunate enough in the sense that I'll be clocking those. As hopefully, if they get the vision pretty quick, I'll be able to get some understanding really reasonably quickly. But ultimately, I want to see what happens in the first 2 races, and then I can go back and look at the card on the back half. Now, as crazy as it all sounds, Ralphie, I'm still half interested in potentially backing Western Empire small 1x4 if I'm going to play in the race, because King of Light, it all looks right. It's going to be very, very tight. Western Empire knows coming to the top of its form. It's going to be getting also a golden run. Could be a big chance of running a place, but again, I'm prefacing all this. It's got to do with the ground conditions.
Right. So with the caveat that it's playing well, like typical Ascot.
Yep.
I guess, and tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, you're saying you're pretty much going to get the place odds Western Empire that you're getting the win odds on King of Light, and they're both hard in the race.
Yeah, and they'll be the 2 personal horses that I feel where I stand. I'm not saying that Watch Me Rock can't win, Ozpenko. A lot of horses have got issues.
Yeah.
When I look at everything, I can't find a fault with Western Empire. I just can't find one. Now, it's not going to go to the former glory, but I don't feel you need to go to the former glory to win. Like, if we knew for sure, Ralphie, that this horse was going to run +4, +6, there's no way the horse is going to finish further back than second. Now, a +2.5, 3 puts you hard in the finish, and you don't need that much luck because the horse is going to be there. That's all.
All right, let's touch on a few of
Yep.
the other races. We'll go to the last race. Pike in the last. It's currently $4 Black Laura. It could start very, very short. I just want to start by asking you this, Vince, because I put this horse in Sizzlers a couple of starts back, but I just thought, gee, the way you're relaxing, are you better off being a bit further than 1,000 meters? It got beaten at a tight price, staying at 1,000 meters, and it's still staying at 1,000 meters. This time, 3 weeks between runs compared to 2 weeks between runs. A lot of these did race against it, including Jade Session, who beat it home last start. Where does it fit in?
Yeah. Of course, it's the reality is on ability. No question, the horse is up there because realistically, benchmark. I would say if you can run benchmark, you're almost going to win the race.
Right.
But you are correct. This horse, there's no chance the horse is going to be forward. It's going to be midfield back, and you're going to need a ton of luck. So I'm with you in terms of the assumption of they would have been much better off going at a longer distance, because this is exactly what all the intel is also indicating. And maybe they feel 21 days, this is going to be all good news and we're going to be in a good place. The reality is maybe not. Maybe you're not going to be in a good place. This could work against you and you're not going to have the lanes to work with at all. And, geez, Pike's going to need to be Miracle Pike.
Well, the horse who won't be worrying about the lanes led the race last start, Sinful Living. I can't help asking you this question, Vince. The 3 kilo claimer last start, 2 kilo claimer last start, Nashville Willeron. This might be one of the biggest jockey changes we've ever seen. How big a sight can it give up front?
It all looks good. And initially, Ralphy, I was, reasonably positive with the horse. I just went cold second up. What are we going to do? It was a fantastic first up run. Absolutely fantastic, really. The way the horse went through the first section, not quite to its absolute best, but it pretty much touched one length above benchmark. It was still above benchmark in the mid before tiring late. The 21 days, you would like to take the thought process to say, well, that's fine. We're in a good place now. I just have this challenge that when you run so well first up, could you run sideways second up? And that was my only concern. And it's a big field, Ralphie, so it's not like you're going to be going in a forward motion with no pace. You're going to be in a forward motion with tremendous tension. And we just got to go back to all the things you used to say over the years, Ralphie, that if everybody sees it's dominant on pace, can you imagine the chaos in the last race? About how everyone wants that front forward position. Myself personally, if I'm going to be betting on the day, I hope I don't have to worry about betting in the last. But quality-wise, it's important, right?
100%, absolutely. Yeah, because there are several leaders. One of them will be Desert Whisper. It's got a different setup because it was big first up, but 5 weeks between runs looks like a much better setup to keep speed in the legs.
Yeah, well, in this particular scenario, you're right, Ralph. Number one, the horse can breathe and relax and can also cope if there's induced pace. So if they happen to go, -1 benchmark, that's gold. But if they go benchmark +1, that isn't going to be an issue for the horse either. The horse is going to cope very, very well. I feel that 35 days, there's a high probability they've kept all the speed in the horse. And therefore, it's going to be able to behave in the manner they need to. Draw an 11, push forward, and get rolling straight from the get-go. And the rider doesn't have to have this feeling underneath him that, hang on, where's your speed? Do I have to really boot you up aggressively? No. I feel the horse is going to be able to come across in its own steam. And I would say big chance of taking up the front running.
So it's $11, and if it repeats what it did, it was New Year's Day, Perth Cup Day at the start of the year, that's a pretty solid performance for this race, 1 length above benchmark.
That's all it needs to do.
Lovely.
If it does that, Ralph, you'll be in the money.
That's what we want to hear. Race 8 on the program, the Towton Cup. So the 2,200 metres, Very interesting dynamic here because a lot of these come from very slow tempo lead-ins, and sometimes there could be an overdoing up front, and then that makes it a totally different circumstance. So, what type of pace do you forecast here?
Yeah. Well, all the indicators are at best we're going to be possibly 2.5 to 4.5 below benchmark. Now, I just know from experience, Ralphie, decent sized field, even though all the intel's indicating that, I'm not going to be surprised if they push the pace a little bit more and we find ourselves in that benchmark scenario. But we could easily be 2.5, 5 lengths below benchmark, and that wouldn't be uncomfortable for a lot of horses.
I suppose the starting point then is Captain Pluto because he loomed, didn't quite put Simply away. Now, we made a good case for Simply in our sizzlers that it was going to run big. Wasn't expecting it to knock it off, but it did. It might be another circumstance where Captain Pluto this time with the rail back to the true position gets to really blend into the race because his dynamic is his last 400, isn't it?
It is really important, and you've got to always remember, even though the horse was only sort of 6 off him last start early, that pace, when you're going so slow, what it can do to you and how it can impact you. I mean, the horse is going 18 lengths below benchmark, Ralphie. There's only so much squeeze you've got. And around that 15 length mark, mid-race squeeze, sees the horse out, I feel. And therefore, it's really going to blunt that last couple of 100 metres. So under the circumstance, I thought the run was massive. But with a bit more speed, that squeeze won't have to be there. Therefore, the horse is going to be able to transfer a lot more energy to the back half of its race. And therefore, we should see a bit of an explosion over the last 400 on what this horse can do. And just look at the 2 runs prior to that, Ralphie, when it's running sort of around that 6 lengths below benchmark range. 8.6 last 400, 9.7 last 400. I mean, goodness me, how are they going to stop him if the horse does that?
Oh, I'm surprised it's not favourite. So Forever Boy's favourite, it's on the quick backup. It was sound last week. It's probably got some upside from those Pinjara runs during the year, and it had missed 420 days prior to that preparation. So it looks like the trainer's got him absolutely back on track. But at the moment, from a matchup perspective, if someone said, here's your choice, Captain Pluto or Forever Boy, I'd certainly be happy with the captain. What say you?
Oh, me too, Ralphie. And the main reason for this is when you look at all the signals are they've got the horse like right. Now, its profile is, okay, we've got the horse right, still only potentially trends you to somewhere near benchmark. But there's always that little bit of an illusion. Your first 2 runs have all been with no pace. So you are going to look good late. And that last run, not only there was no pace early, there was really no pace in the middle either, Ralphie. 12.3 lengths below benchmark first section, 7.3 below between the 8 and the 4. Where's the work? All in the last 400. So you look explosive when you just, power home and you want to beat your chest, which makes sense. But what happens if we're travelling 3, 5 lengths below benchmark? What does that mean for you? Given that you're going to be a horse that potentially likes to sit 2 to 3 lengths off them, so position-wise is fantastic, you're now going to be running at a tempo that's somewhere around 7, 8 lengths below benchmark. And when you look through the running line of this horse and you put it under the microscope, this is before the 420 days even, Ralphie, this horse does not have anything like that as a kick. So I doubt if it then got to a sprint home, there's going to be any edges for Forever Boy. I actually feel it's disadvantage. Now, I'm saying all this to you, Ralphie. They could also just absolutely crawl.
Yeah.
Now, I looked at that as well and said, all right, well, let's say we do crawl and we're running 10 lengths below benchmark, 12 lengths below benchmark. I've got him in the MAs just purely because he's trending right and he's going to be positioned correctly. I just can't see how he can outkick a horse like Captain Pluto, even under that circumstance.
Lovely. That's what I wanted to hear. I'll
Yep.
just ask you a couple about some different form here.
Yep.
And Demolish sort of stands out a bit. I think it's going to get a beautiful run. And the question is it ready for 2,200 metres third up? But it was a pretty solid second up run. I mean, we were just talking about Cosmic Crusader. It's pretty real form, even though it was a blanket finish.
It was massive, Ralphie. Absolutely massive. Can't fault that run at all. Just my problem was this. When I looked at that run and I said, geez, if you repeat this, you're going to be hard to beat. And then I looked at it and said, okay, but that was 15, now we're up to 22. Are you set up correctly first run at the distance in the prep? Or are you now going to be one run short? Because you've got to look at the tempo early, Ralphie. First up, 11.6 lengths below benchmark. Yes, you had a sharp last 400, but that's not enough to be battle ready. I don't even feel the second up run made it battle ready. 7.2 lengths below benchmark. You know, modest in the mid race, like going 1.6 above, and didn't even quite have the same finish over the last 400. Only 4.6 versus 7.1. Admittedly, I felt to myself, the horse could have still been slightly flattened from that first up run late. And hence the reason why we didn't get that really sharp finish over the last 400 metres second up. But I just feel there's a little bit of vulnerability first time 2000 third up. I would have loved if the horse had one more run. That's all.
And I should not ask about Lavalier, the now stablemate, formerly with James Cummings. 2 top 4 finishes in the South Australia Derby and Queensland Derby. And on the quick backup from last week, weight drop, I'm using it for the context of trainer's intent. I can't help think this is the one where if they can get it to run well tomorrow, it's Perth Cup bound.
Well, that'll be really important. Well, no question. First of all, we've seen last campaign, the horse trended all the way to benchmark. Loves distance. Slightly different setup to the last horse we spoke about. So this was 1,500 first up, 1,800 second up. But that last start run, extremely slow tempo first 2 sections. And only a sprint home in the last 400. No matter what happens, the horse can be competitive. But I also feel, for different reasons, needs this run.
Yeah. So it sounds like if all going to plan on the day as far as how the track's racing, Captain Pluto's hard in this race.
Well, the way I looked at it was this, Ralphy. When I was doing my first, without taking the track into consideration, I was marking Captain Pluto a rock solid B grade bet.
Lovely. All right, race 7. This is a much lesser class here. $60,000 race they got as the first leg of the quaddie. That's not helping us. And of the 2 favourites here, I'm going to start with Hard Solo because I think this says something about the standard of the race, given that its last 2 starts. Yes, I know it gets the class drop. That's why it's in the market. But not often you see a horse at $4 after starting 100 to 1 in its previous 2 starts. Of course, one of them being there's some King of Light form there. Hence it's the big weight drop. But it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence seeing 100 to 1 in its last 2 starts and one career win.
No, it doesn't, Ralphie. It was a little bit of a challenge for me, but when I looked at it, I actually feel that this is where the horse needs to be at this distance, 1,400.
Yep.
So I just forgot that run at a mile and then just dialed back. And I went to the run 3 starts back and that benchmark performance when it was top 5 for the day. And I just looked at that structure of the race. Good speed early, going 4.4 lengths below benchmark. Nice in the middle, going 1.5 above. Very solid last 400, Ralphie, plus 4.7. Even when you look at the micro splits, all the trend was upwards. And I just felt that was it. And then they kept it at 1,200. It just didn't have the same finish late. I felt it was because I really do believe the horse felt that run. And then they went all the way up to a mile. Didn't get a lot of tempo. Maybe they were just wanting to have a bit of a look at distance to see how the horse would behave. And the positive was this for me. 0.8 above benchmark last 400 metres at a mile. Tempo slightly softer than ideal for that sort of finish. But coming back 200 metres, even if the horse has got to run several lengths faster early, highly confident this horse is going to run strong 1400 and a rebound with a possibility of testing the peak. Now, as we can see, Ralphie, if you run benchmark -1, you're on the podium.
Yeah. Now, the favourite for the race just over it is our Paladin Al. And, well, we often talk about structures and race shapes and the right patterns. Oh, this is a hard pattern to sort of get a handle on. Starting at second prep, no barrier trials, two wins at a mile in its first prep, and it's a 4-year-old.
On the surface, to me, it looks like ideal. This is exactly where you want to start the horse, 1400 first up, because they're probably looking at it and say that they can get the horse to go well first up.
Yep.
His first run, his race start was 1200 metres, ran second, maybe a little bit more distance. Bingo, they're going to turn on the lights. So I do feel that this is good because the horse has already proven at a mile how solid it is. Just, they'd be praying for a no-pace race though, Ralphie. And that would be then a runner that you could seriously consider. And I take it in a position this horse is probably going to improve from one campaign to another. The reality is, I don't feel it's going to get the speed in its favour. I reckon it's going to be a decent race with decent speed. And where does that put your horse? I feel you're going to be exposed late.
Two others to touch on: Redback Flyer, another horse who's first up. Hard to get a handle on, but I don't mind this part of it, Vince, that it's bar plates off. He wore the bar plates in the last 2 runs after winning 3 in a row. So that probably says that they had him right, and then the bar plates is rarely a positive. Tried to keep him going, 2 fourths, and this time in 2 quiet trials. And maybe if they've got him right and he gets the right run from that sort of sticky barrier for Chris Parnham, he's in the race.
Yeah, well, his trial from the 3rd to the 11th at Larkin, even though he was nowhere, the way he closed out over just the last couple of 100 metres, because it's just like a little, it's a 950 metre trial, Ralphie. They did nothing through the first 150, 200 metres, but it was pretty sharp late. So I felt that was already enough for me to feel, and then there was improvement from the subsequent trial. I felt that's enough to be ready first up. You're going to be in a golden position in terms of where you need to be positioned on this track, in a forward pack and up there. So I feel that horse also ticked the box with that. And then the question now becomes, all right, if you can get past those 2 hurdles, you go very well first up. If you can outperform what you did, which is the -1.8 first up last campaign, could you win? Well, I felt that if you run -1.8, you're probably going to be in the money.
Well, it's a good sign then,
you
worthy of thinking about. Yeah.
Yep.
And just to finish with Sky Talker, do we forgive its last one? Because if we do, and he was planted wide and he was 1200 to a mile, poor setup, second start, new stable, and we just go on what he did at Bunbury on Melbourne Cup Day, it was the best last 800 metres of the day. There was probably an argument to say he was back wide and flat, second up.
Yeah, absolutely. So a repeat of that performance would be fantastic. The horse absolutely ready for the 1400 metres now, third up, coming back from the mile. It's going to be all in its favour, in my view. If they get the repeat and it brings that 0.3 to 1400, it's there. At the moment, I've scored the horse potentially 1 to 2 lengths off that, off that sort of profile. I could be wrong here, Ralphie. This horse might surprise and win.
Well, he's $14, so one to consider there. Low confidence race 6, but Auto Cruise is on top. And I suppose the standout part for me with Auto Cruise's last run was it was a day the wide lanes just weren't in play, and it was able to run second in a pretty sound performance there, out super wide on the day. Tomorrow from barrier 3 and third up, it almost gets a chance to peak and get the right run in transit.
Absolutely, Ralphie. That last start, No move early, no move in the middle. It was just a 400-metre race.
Yep.
And even the run before where it ran second showed really good speed early, then lost 1.8 in the mid and then rebounded. So they definitely got this horse right. Now, with all the chinks out the way in terms of all the different possible scenarios, you would like to think this is your opportunity to win again. I feel this is a bit of a racehorse, Ralphy. It's a bit of a fighter and has had, in my view, some adversity that it's had to overcome where it doesn't absolutely like certain scenarios. If they can blend in with good speed, then the horse gets his chance to win. And what do you need? A couple of lengths below benchmark to win? Just that the challenge is always this. How comfortable do you feel backing these sort of horses? That's all, because the money speaks a different language to the form.
So we're talking mediocrity is basically the level of standard, but it's entitled to be in the race. But do you want to back a horse of modest talent?
Yeah. In my journey so far, when I was younger, I used to look. These horses were running 2, 3, 4 lengths below benchmark, and they were dropping back or doing things, or I could see patterns like this where they were big horse that they haven't had good energy distribution. I'd like to be all over them, but what I've learnt is that they have one little blemish in the race where things don't go their way. They can't overcome it. And back then when I was young, I wasn't betting for a place, right? I was potentially backing either one horse for a win or 3 horses for the win. So my mindset was very different. But you also get stuck with a lot of runs of losses, right?
Yep.
So that's my caution is just, if you bet in these sort of, nowadays when I look at a horse like this, if I've got a healthy lead in my kitty, the maximum I'm going to risk is 1.4 no matter what. Doesn't matter if it's worthy of an A grade, whatever. The maximum you get is 1/4. But you've got to have a lead in your account, like a decent lead. You can't be just up 10 or 15%. Like you've got to have at least 150% more than what you started the season with in your account. That's what I'm saying, right? This is just me talking.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'll finish on one horse on as far as this race is concerned. Desert Dancing. No offense to Joe as a party, but here's a big jockey change with Nasra Willa going on. Second up with a barrier trial between. It's only its second prep with this stable. It used to be South Australian, trained by Will Larkin, and a couple of sound wins at Northam during the year. Has it got a chance to put a new marker down?
Oh, for sure. Last start, 2 lengths below benchmark. What a great return. But look at the way the horse, the setup. 3.1 lengths below benchmark first section. You go through its line. It's bang on its average of 3.5 below benchmark. The mid, plus 4.7, smashing anything that it had done in the past. Like its average in the mid's around 2.7 lengths below benchmark, Ralphy. So it's a brand new PB. And then look at the last section. I look at the micro splits, 4 to the 2, 2.8 above, new PB. Its average is around 1.8 below. Last 200 metres, 1.8. No, not a new PB, second best ever. Again, its average is like 2.7 below. When I look at all this and I just say, you did that first up and you went to another level, we've got the typical signal, Ralphy, of a 5-year-old mare trending upwards. And it peaked last campaign with a -2.
Which is enough for you.
Yeah, and it already came out first up and did -2. So the question will be this. How do you feel the horse is going to perform at 14? So again, from a betting point of view, from a business point of view, all the things look sound. And this is the sort of horse that you want to jump into. But you've got that caveat. Will the horse do this at 14? And you can't answer that question, right? No, I can't answer it, right?
No.
So if you can't answer the question, even though it was so strong last start, if you're going to bet in a race like this, again, you can't really go beyond your minimum. If you want to bet more than your minimum, do your best to look the other way and then pass the race, because that's a temptation more so than smart business move.
We know the 1400 is no problem for Smooth Mover. It's one of the short price favourites on the day in race 5. It's pikey, it's blinkers on. So pikey goes on, blinkers go on, weight comes off, which generally is the box ticker there. What do we make of it first up? Because it was caught wide, yeah, okay, but it didn't really finish at all. Now, I know I want to ask you via your bounce theory, 63 days between runs. Didn't really turn up, but sometimes that means it's your second start where you can really explode.
Well, that's what happens, Ralphie. That's exactly what happens, and the setups is pinned for that. And you got the right stable. Yeah. Really important, because some stables, Ralphie, you get the bounce theory, but the stable doesn't know how to do the bounce theory because they get lost in translation in training, trying to work out why did you go so bad, because I was expecting you to go so much better. And that's the problem with trainers that don't have the same skill sets as someone like Simon Miller. So everything's pinned for this horse to do that. And the horse can deliver at 1,400 metres without question. What are the challenges for the horse? I don't feel there's too many, other than you just got to get in your right running line through the first half of the race. That's all.
So you're saying all going well, he's entitled to be the short price he is?
He's entitled to be the... Well, no. No, I'm not going to say he's entitled to be the short price. Right?
Okay.
He gets a short price because it's a tiny field. And maybe there's not going to be... Yeah, and there's not going to be much appetite for the others, is there?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And that's the reason why...
I'm not saying you want to take the short price. I'm saying that's why it's the short price.
Yeah, and that's the reason why. Because I felt if there was a couple of other horses in the race that have got, similar capabilities, which potentially there could be, and a bigger field, that horse wouldn't be $250. It'll be $4, which is what it really should be here. But, they're not going to back anything, Ralphie.
Well, just for thrill seekers, on the quick backup, River Rubicon. If someone said to you, you know what, River Rubicon, he's a veteran now, but he's definitely bringing, and he's only 7. I mean, it's not like he's 10. If he's definitely bringing his all-time best, he's right this race at $23.
Yeah, I just want to. I know a lot of people love the 7-day theory.
Yep,
and maybe I'm wrong, but I hate the 7-day theory when you're second up and you run well first up. That's all. For me, it's like I want to run in the opposite direction. But you are right, Ralphie. First up, massive signal. They got this horse spot on. For whatever reason, they got the quick backup. Is the quick backup for something else that's coming? I don't know. But that was my turn off.
Yes.
That's all.
Okay, race 4, another 1,400-metre race. Rostislav, Torquenco and Luana Miss form is pretty good form for this type of race, you would think. It's second favourite from Stormway and Castle Road, it's second line. Castle Road and Stormway are pretty much equal favourites, but the three dominate the race. What say you?
I feel this horse is a specialist sprint horse. 1,000 metres.
Rostislav?
Yep, they went up to 1,100, 2 starts back, and they went all the way up to 1,200 last start.
Yeah.
Back to the 1,000. The only risk you got to take is this. Is the 21 days enough to put the speed back into the legs? Because they've definitely made the right decision going back to the 1,000. And if the horse reproduces what it did first up, it wins. And wins comfortably. It's not a big field. Low probabilities of trouble. Just the speed, that's all. Will it have the speed in its legs? And if it does, look out.
Nice. A quick backup horse that really interests me is race 3, Fame. Oh, it had a little bit of traffic last week. And I did mention on our preview podcast that I think this horse has turned up pretty fit from Peter Mooney's yard. And this ain't the Arc de Triomphe, is it? It's benchmark 66 over 2,200 metres. So it'll be interesting how it lines up with the favourite Summer Legacy and Twilight Tale, who's deep in the market for you as well.
Yeah, well, for me, Ralphie, this was another horse that I'd circled as a genuine betting proposition, like profile-wise. Setup-wise, all... in my view, a positive. The way I was looking at it. Again, just for the fact that it had that second up run at 18. So if it had 2 runs at 16, I'd be negative. But no, we went a mile first up to the 1800. Now we're in the right distance range. And I feel that this horse is definitely going to get its opportunity. Because that last start run, there's no way that was a fair run. 0.9 below benchmark early. Excellent speed. We're talking about a 4.5 length slowdown mid-race. Can't work in your favour, Ralphy, under any circumstances. And yet managed to run the last 400, 1.9 above benchmark. They're all big positive signs, Ralphy. The challenge would be for the horse, if you were looking at, because I like to always say, okay, what's the negative? Can you run -2, third up at this distance range? That's it. If you're confident that the horse can bring that last start or even the last 2 starts to that level, then you're a massive chance of winning this race, because this is a good race to be in. And I personally felt there wasn't too many horses that could win. There was one that I left out from this early edition that I'm going to elevate upwards after I had another look last night, that I said, I should push this horse up, and that's Rocking Society. Right. This is the horse that I want to push up. Not really showing the best form, and like initially it was a little bit deceptive for me, so I didn't pick up on it straight away. But then when I went back and had another look last night and said, hang on a second, you went 1600 first up, 1920 metres second up, 2100 metres third up. Last start, you had the world's worst race shape, 22.7 lengths below benchmark, but a monster mid of plus 18. I started thinking about Waller, how he does things, about horses that are in the staying motion. And then you just go back and you just have a look at this horse last campaign, 2200 metres, 0.8 above benchmark, Ralphy, the hidden horse. So this was the other horse last night. I said to myself, the big threat to fame at a price.
And further to that, Blinkers again, Brad Willer replacing the apprentice jockey and probably going to get the best run of all time on speed.
Yeah, so Ralphie could be a way early in the day to get a bit of a lift in the kitty. So it just depends on which way you want to swing the bat. If you're going to swing Fame's way, or some people probably like to back both.
Absolutely, Rocky Society, and never mind Pikey in the last. Is it Pikey in the first? That looks like a nice setup for a quick backup Royal for Toronado.
Yeah, small field, no competition in the sense of the horse's profile sits at pretty much half length below benchmark. The next closest horse, realistically, on current profile is about 1.5 below benchmark to 2. That's where you're sitting. So from that point of view, it's all in your favour. No speed in the race. I don't know if that's good for the horse, Ralphie, but what I do know is this. It's definitely had enough racing now to be able to handle any variations. Even if they do go a little bit quicker, it's not going to matter. Because sometimes when they go very slow, Ralphie, and even though it's not a big field and there was just more pace, that can leave you gasping a little bit late in the race. But I don't see that happening here. I just feel this horse is going to sit anywhere it wants. Literally sit anywhere it wants. And who's going to outrun it over the last 400?
No, I think if it just brings what it did at Ascot 25th of October, it should be enough for it. So let's hope there's a nice little present for us early. We really appreciate you being a customer of Year Round Carnival. Make sure you check out the final edition that comes through to you late tomorrow morning or mid tomorrow morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time, that is, of course. And best of luck with your plays at the Northerly.